I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, Episode 9. I always have trouble saying Jujutsu Kaisen for some reason.
It's a little tongue twisty.
I don't even think it is. It's just on me. That being said, Gojo is taking his blindfold off. That was where we left off last episode. He is facing Choso, Jogo, and Hanami.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm scared. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm honestly, I'm nervous. I'm nervous going into this episode. I'm nervous. I feel conflicted feelings inside of me because of what has been built, for Gojo. This trust that the viewer and even the people in universe have for this character, but also knowing the planning and time that has gone into whatever we are about to witness.
The story that they've told us of Gojo puts trust and faith within him, but the Chekhov's gun that is his trapping and capturing is still on the table. I don't know. If I had to guess, he's going to be captured. After that, I don't know.
After that, I think I agree. Whatever this prison realm, whatever this plan, whatever this trap is going to work.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. But then after that, I don't know how it's going to be handled. I don't know which characters will play a major role.
Yeah.
I almost feel like Gojo's going to get trapped, and then Itadori and everyone else get Gojo out.
It's going to be tough ask, right? I mean, out of everybody in the world, especially like when we're facing up against Geto, who do we have other than Gojo at the moment who's on that level or on that par? I don't know.
Teamwork makes the dream work. It's not all the eyes in the team,
Well, don't say teamwork makes the dream work, because Gojo doesn't have a team right now, and he's facing a team.
Backup players. He has people on the bench that are waiting, that are
all
like,
right.
I'm gonna be there soon.
Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, that was Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, Episode 9.
That felt too, that episode should have had an episode right after it, in all honesty. I'm, like, not kidding. That the contents of this episode that we just watched should have it should have been a doubleheader. There should have been a game right after. There should have been an episode right after, or this should have been 45 minutes, or an hour, or a movie. I don't know.
It's so great that there isn't, though.
I mean, because they want me to just, like, sit here.
Next week, I'm going to be in, like, complete despair and confusion of what the fuck we're going to do.
We're going to spend an awful lot of hours out of the days to come being like, what is going to happen next Thursday? Like, what is going to happen?
Do you think that in the manga, where Season 1 ended with Itadori and Nobara killing the brothers, do you think it immediately picked up with the hidden inventory arc?
In the manga?
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm not sure.
Because
sometimes anime adaptations take a little bit of a different approach.
Yeah, and okay, it could be a separate manga,
it could have been like some side story manga that had a different cover and was sold separately, not in the numbered volumes of like the main story.
I cannot believe whether it's the choice from the mangaka or the choice of the showrunners, right? What giving us the hidden inventory arc did for this moment.
For this moment.
Blew my mind. No pun intended.
I think I'm still in shock. Because of what we've gotten for this, because of hidden inventory, that this telling of facts.
What the fuck is it?
What exactly? We have our expectations, our idea of what happened to Geto at the end of JJK 0, everything. I'm in complete chaos within my mind, trying to process, put together, understand. I'm in shock by it. Well, it doesn't feel real.
First of all, I fucking hate it. I hate looking at it.
Of course, that is very fair. with the smile on the
So,
face
yeah.
and the liquid. Yeah, it's disgusting.
So I want to talk about a couple like reasons why I immediately like am coming out like adoring this fucking series, and this is just another reminder of how it blows my mind like again and again. So we're obviously starting this the second we just finished the episode, so apologies if I stumble, but in terms of us as an audience trying to set our expectations going forward in the story, we were pretty certain that Gojo would be sealed, correct?
Yeah.
Fine. Going forward, we are given in this episode the things that need to be met, the conditions that need to be met in order for that sealing to happen. That was immediately met with characters' reaction to that feat and how fucking impossible it seems to be. Then we were given the amazing sequence of Gojo fucking killing 1,000 transfigured humans in that little amount of time.
299 seconds.
We were given that. That is to show how quick his body is able to move and how capable of and reliant he is as a person and figure in this story.
And it also like really drives home the heaviness of the continuous theme of using 1 minute as an idea of a concept of time in terms of Satoru Gojo. We get it in multiple occasions in this episode from both people being, we can't hold him back for that long, or look what he can do in a minute, to
but
what were you doing in that minute that was only a minute to you?
And not only like what he's physically capable of, but his instinct and intuition of thought for why he was giving himself that limit of seconds for himself to act, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And then going from there to, all right, he's on edge, he's exhausted. This is the time that we're going to activate the prison realm, right? Because he's on edge. There are so many things that were on the table for us to see as possibilities for how that minute would be given. Or taken is a better way to phrase it. The thought of the acknowledgement of what Geto, quote unquote, had in his pocket to play here might be one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen in this show, let alone anything that's similar to this show. I cannot
the conversation of using this body, oh, well, I liked the techniques this body had, but also the emotional damage that just the sight of this body alone, there were no techniques used there.
So remove yourself from like this story for a second, right? Sure, what that could do to Gojo is like the reasons for his whatever. Like ignore all of that for a second and think about it from just a writing standpoint narratively. You are changing who your main villain is from the viewer's eyes, right?
An odd choice, definitely.
And the way that you manage to do so is you're introducing a new villain basically into the story with such precision and such. It's so scary the way sometimes when any show or any work of fiction introduces a new villain in one, the middle of an arc, or two, going into another arc, you have to somehow set stakes, and you do that by trying to give power to that villain. What they've done here is give power by intelligence and the lack thereof. This unknown is so fucking torturous in a narrative sense because it's something that not only Gojo, like again, we're trying to remove ourselves from that story for a second. It's something that we've never accounted for, considered. It's somebody that we don't know.
It's so unknown, it was unknown.
But all we know about this villain is that they had the foresight, intelligence, and previous intelligence to enact a plan so well thought out that your main issue that you need to come up against, you've already thought through years prior.
Multiple types of intelligence, like also emotional intelligence.
Oh my god,
and awareness of how humans feel and how the human heart and the human emotions work. Like an exemplary emotional intelligence and understanding and awareness there of people
the writing
humans.
to show us what Gojo is capable of physically, and then utilize that to drive home how he is lost in thought for a minute by it. And like it's so well done. It's so fucking good, dude. God. I had no expectation. My mind stopped at he's gonna reveal himself as Geto.
Oh my god, can you just imagine like the manga readers right now? This episode to them, they were probably like, hey, you know, like they were probably waiting for people to watch it and get this like weird reveal that no one literally would have ever. I mean, at least I didn't have an inkling to at all.
We've talked about his stitches and whether or not he was dead at the end of last episode.
But I don't think I ever went far enough with actually thinking anything real of it. I'm like, yeah, there's stitches on his head, but
I at least was like, it's weird, but not in my fucking darkest nightmare would I imagine that somebody can have a technique that allows them to implant a brain with a mouth on it to be able to take control of another body. Jesus fuck. That's haunting.
Or that literally Geto really was not in the story at all.
Yeah.
That never crossed my mind at all.
Yeah, because giving us hidden inventory
made it stronger, that feeling that this was really Geto.
But what it did to us as an audience too, like, yeah, it made us think it was Geto, but like we were so like he not only tricked Gojo, he tricked us, right? Like, God.
You know, we shouldn't feel too bad about it though, because if they're saying that this is the strongest and smartest person ever and he got tricked, then I don't feel that embarrassed to be tricked alongside with him.
Who the fuck is it? How long have they been alive? Do they have a limit on how long they can live because of the means of their technique?
Is this like an immortality? Like, if you just have to put your brain in a bunch of different bodies, like... I'm confused. I need explanation for what it actually is, how it works, why this thing specifically knew all of this information, how they came to be so intelligent and know exactly how to handle Gojo in a way that we had thought was only perceived by Geto because of how well Geto knew Gojo. Like, to me, all of that planning and all of that thought that went into this plan to seal Gojo came from the brain that I thought it made the most sense to come from.
Is this the polar opposite of Tengen? You know? Like, the idea of this, like, let's like entertain the idea of immortality or long life because of this technique, right? Mm-hmm. I think that you could like put it up on stage with Tengen then, right? In theory, as it's like as the ultimate idea. Like, think about it. Okay, so hidden inventory. We weren't just given Gojo and Geto.
No,
we were given a lot of Tengen.
Vessel. Mm-hmm.
And what that gives to us as a viewer.
Oh, and Geto's reaction to the idea of the vessel for Tengen, and now his body is. Oh, that's so messed up. But it makes, like, it connects so well. And I'm like, obviously that makes it more messed up because it connects well.
Yeah. It's like, how long has this been waiting? Like, okay, so if Gojo was the issue then, and presumably, because I'm probably wrong here, has always been the issue to this makeshift Geto, then... does that mean that this thing came to be after Gojo was already capable enough to defeat it? You know what I mean? Like, why not enact your plans before Gojo? Was there someone else?
I mean, we do get this nice line about Yuta not being able to replace Gojo. So maybe it's that Gojo is the last of a line and there's no one after him that is yet... at least perceived by a villain as being able to be the next strongest, as strong as Gojo. Like, maybe before Gojo there were strong individuals, but maybe the current strong individuals are not yet at their, like, peak.
Yeah.
Because Gojo's currently teaching some of those people he thinks are strong individuals and could get stronger. So maybe this is, like, the perfect window of time, you know? If we get Gojo, before any of these new, like, up-and-coming Jujutsu sorcerers get any stronger, this is the window.
I fucking hate it. I hate it.
I don't know why you had to pull it up again. I don't want to see that.
Because I want to talk about it.
It's horrifying.
The means that this body was received because Gojo wanted to be considerate of his friends.
Yeah, I wrote that down. Giving body to Shoko was too much consideration, too much compassion.
Everything makes so much... Like, everything fits perfectly together. Everything. Mm-hmm. God. Why? Okay, so... In other shows where I've seen similar but much less specific and grotesque versions of trying to steal somebody's body and use it for yourself, typically their means to an end is that they could never use it as well as the original user could.
Yes.
In my mind, I'm like, okay, how would that apply here? Like, if it was like, oh, Yuta versus this version of Geto, and Yuta's already fought the previous Geto, then great. But part of me really doesn't believe that because of how much pre-planning has gone into this. It's like he knows it better than... It's
more like you took the body, you have full control of it, and you're also strong in yourself in terms of, like, at least for this being, intelligent. And really good at planning and staying composed. Also manipulative.
I fucking cannot. Hanami's dead.
And to give us that, and then it just be, that could have been one of the bigger reveals and moments in this episode. But to give us killing one of the villains that's literally been in the story since the beginning, and kill that character, but then, like, put a bunch of other stuff on top of it that's, like, even more shocking. And, like, you get Gojo doing that quick domain expansion, while keeping it in a time period that hopefully won't injure or vegetable any of the non-sorcerers. Right after that, where I'm like, oh my god, what's happening? And, like, obviously Mahito's entrance with the train coming. All of these things were just, like, stacking on that I couldn't even be like, wow, they just killed one of the big villains from season 1.
Do you think that this Geto planned for this thing from Gojo, whereas obviously Mahito and Jogo weren't thinking it would happen? Like, do you think that this version of Geto, like, without telling them... with that, while having his card still in his hand, was willing to take that risk and like just kind of play them for it?
I like that idea. I like the manipulative possibility here. We get that shot of the tiles falling. Like, you're showing your cards, you're showing that you won, checkmate. I really like that there were things that were still being parts of the plan that were still being very held close to the chest.
Yeah.
And that this is, like, a great... I mean, we get Mahito, I think, even reacting a little bit at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So I would say that this was kind of like, whoa, to some of the other characters, some of the other villains.
I have a few things that I want to talk about before we end the discussion. So just a couple, so there's so much emphasis on the soul in this show, whether it's Mahito, whether it's Gojo in this episode. In my mind, the question arises, like, is there a piece of Geto still in there? My immediate response to that question would be no. Like, no, there isn't, because of the means, it seems, of how that's, transferred.
But it's a good idea to bring up, because a lot of times when you get the idea of a puppet and a puppet master, there's that possibility for the person to still be in there and fighting back to some degree, or maybe right before the battle turns, like, the most sour, the real person inside changes the tides, somehow. We do have that idea and concept in media where there is an idea of almost like a puppet and puppet master.
Yeah.
So it's not crazy to even just, like, bring up the idea just in terms of, like, in a discussion. But to actually have them do anything like that, I think I might be surprised because of this reveal. It feels like there's no happy ending from this reveal. Like, there's nothing good that can come from what Gojo is witnessing right now with seeing Geto standing in front of him.
Yeah.
And that Geto being, like, completely dead would probably actually be, even though horrifying, the most satisfying.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, the narrative.
Another thing I wanted to talk about was, like, obviously, like, I think, I don't know what the purpose, like, what the initial instance was that motivated the decision or the action, but I think it was something to do with, like, the Pokemon Polygon episode or Porygon episode, but, like, the dulled animation, right? Like, that we've seen in, like, other anime too, of, like, trying to, from what I understand, so apologies if I'm wrong, trying to, like, dull the potential of something like seizures, for example. I'll say that first off, I wish it wasn't the case in any of the shows. I understand why they do it. For my own subjective, selfish reasons, I wish that wasn't the case. That being said, it did not really affect my experience that much this episode because of how fucking amazing the narrator was. Like, there are so many useless narrators in shows sometimes, and you can really, like, put a very, like, a different finger on, like, on the production side of things when you choose to use a narrator at the right time, whether it's in manga or anime. It's usually the same, right? I imagine in the manga here there was a narrator, could be wrong, but, like, it just felt so well intertwined to the story that you felt how, like, this transcended humanity. This transcended the pages.
I mean,
like,
this
my
is going down in
eyes were
that,
glued.
what the image it gave to me was this idea of, like, this is historic.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Is a historic event. Like, this is monumental. I mean, we even get this line from this Geto character about, oh, should I have you sealed for, I think he either said, like, 10,000 years or something years. Like that. Just that idea of, like, this being so monumental, so historic, like, this is a giant point in time in history that using the narrator really actually gives you the scope. I think it really, if you didn't get the scope of what's happening before then,
yeah,
you got the scope once you saw and heard that there was a narration that was talking about it, almost seemingly, I don't know, because I don't have the, like, dialogue in front of me, but it had a past tense feeling. It had, like, an actual historic recollection feeling.
Like you're being told
like
the story.
We're being told it, like, this happened a week ago or something.
I agree with you completely.
So it really, really drives home the scope. And also, I see, before you brought up the narration, because you normally are the one to point out the music, I thought that's where you were going with your train of thought, because I thought that in terms of, like,
the score was
creating
great.
A specific energy and tone during this immersion, the music choices were both very creative and interesting, and obviously worked very well in terms of immersion.
They're all working in tandem, they really pulled it off because the music felt so seamless. It felt so eerie at first.
Everything that they were trying to put forth, every idea, thought, feeling, emotion they were trying to evoke, it happened.
Everyone, you think?
I mean, I don't know all the ones they were trying to do.
So do you think that it was, like,
I was pretty immersed.
When I was looking at the transfigured humans, like, I was like, there was one or two of them that made me think of, like, the Nazca alien bodies.
Oh, see, I see some that remind me of, like, when they get the, like, really deep sea sharks that look like ancient aliens, that kind of idea.
So do you think that was, like, intentional? Going into it, it was, like, all planned.
Just get a little wild and crazy.
Yeah,
I think
getting a little silly goofy.
Yeah, silly
incorporate
goofy.
some aliens and sharks into it, just to, you know, keep up with modern day news. Yeah,
Jennifer Lawrence is
Jennifer
over there.
Lawrence. Yeah. So a couple more things. Yuta.
Yeah.
Holy shit! I am so fucking glad that he was brought up here.
I really love the mention there.
He's in the story going forward then. He has to be, right? Like, assuming that things don't get solved and fixed this night, and that there is leaving and going to get reinforcements or help, I feel like Yuta would have to come back to try to help.
I love the placement of bringing Yuta up, because in season 1, he's brought up as almost this, like, mythical
From Toto?
this mythical character that is like incredibly strong and everyone also thinks so, just like Gojo, but we don't get any time with him or get to meet him. It's like, oh yeah, he's somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then we get a movie with him.
Mm-hmm.
And get his backstory. And then he gets mentioned here and I'm like, this is insane to mention, but to say that he can't replace you, like he's not at your level.
I don't give a shit. I trust Gojo. Like, I trust him in that judgment or in that, like, first thought to go to Utah. Like,
But this thing, what is this thing's intelligence? Does this thing's intelligence transcend time? Does this thing, like, does it see a timeline and it sees the future and it sees...
I don't think so.
Does it see, like, power scaling bars above people's heads?
In my mind, it was a normal human at a certain point in time based off of, like, the history that we've been given in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And whether through, I don't think this would fall... could this potentially fall in line with the Heavenly Pact? I don't think so. Or, like, maybe it would. Yeah, I think, okay, so, like, let's try to, like, connect this to something like Mechamaru, right? Mm-hmm. You're stuck and you can't utilize any part of your body.
Is that why we get mention of Mechamaru at the very end?
But then again, how somebody like Mahito is able to heal a body for Mechamaru, mm-hmm. But assuming that this brain boy would want that, he wouldn't have been able to get Mahito to do it here. It's a pretty fucking significant idea of power or ability to be able to change bodies and get whatever brain you'd want inserted into another person, right? And get their abilities. I'm gonna assume, though, that he started out as a human. I just don't know when that first transfer would have happened and how we would know.
Or it's like a Sukuna finger thing and all the parts of the body had to be scattered away from each other, but they underestimated the brain.
Yeah. It's interesting. Okay. Do you think that it's something like Sukuna? Or could it even be Sukuna itself? And obviously it's not the voice, but the voice technically comes from Itadori, I guess. Like, he's definitely playing with the fingers himself. The idea that, like his mouth being on his brain there, that reminds me of when Sukuna can talk from Itadori's hand. Mm-hmm. Not that there's an actual mouth there all the time. You know what I mean?
We do get that shot of all the fingers at the very beginning of...
The intro?
The intro. Or it's somewhere in the intro. Maybe not at the beginning of the intro. But it's in there and there's a bunch of fingers.
What a fucking nightmare, dude. Like, what do you... But it was done so... I can't, like, get away from it. It was done so well. I have such a sense of, like, fear driven from mystery that I cannot escape because of that shit. That's wild. Okay, Mechamaru.
Mechamaru at the end. That definitely needs to be talked about.
Do you think that this is like a final thing and he's gonna die because he's transmitted this? Or do you think that he's like alive still? Like the way that Mechamaru was like, listen to this and understand it for like at once, right? Made me feel like it was like he didn't have long to talk or there would be consequences after he talked.
I find that this idea that maybe he could have left a parting voice message with one of his little more smaller, bots, like a fly. I do feel more like it's a parting message. Like,
how would he know?
The last bit of his soul. This is the last bit. How would he know what?
He would need to be conscious currently to be able to know when Gojo was sealed.
Maybe it's something that he hooked up to only activate once it happened.
Somehow.
Yeah. Some type of soul out of body thing, like even after death. And to choose Itadori as the character, I definitely think that's on par with something Mechamaru would have chosen to do. That if Gojo is sealed, who is the person to tell? I like narratively that it would be Itadori. But dang.
Where did Itadori have it? Was it just...
It's on his ear, like an earpiece.
Interesting.
And it kind of confused me at first because I'm like, wait, why is he shocked by this earpiece? But...
Do you think that, like, Mechamaru did get out and was able to warn somewhat?
So, but what narratively would that do that they didn't kill Mechamaru there? You know?
Give Itadori an earpiece? and say that, okay, I can still like be part of this. I just have to be hidden and I can get like surveillance for you guys. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but narratively, as the audience member, how would you feel if Mekamaru actually was not dead?
Um, I don't know. I don't think I'd feel anything negative.
I don't know if I'd feel anything negative per se, but I don't know if it's like majorly positive other than, yay, Mekamaru's not dead.
Yeah.
I'd be worried narratively at the reason to keep the character alive after such a defeat and Geto and Mahito
Was
walking
just
away.
to serve
Just to
messenger.
yeah, like what's the point of watching that fight and feeling that he's dead and then it ended up like not being true? I think I would be a little bit maybe confused at the choice there.
I guess it depends on the timing and like how they would handle it.
Or how he survived.
Yeah.
What was the reasoning and the ability to survive?
I will say that I love how extra Mekamaru is, that like his little like earpiece like moves with him talking. You know?
I do like that.
I love it.
But I mean, how else would you... I mean, I can't think of an actual explanation yet of how this earpiece is working if Mekamaru's dead.
I'm with you.
So, at the moment, I think I need to operate under the...
He's alive.
Or at least be okay with that, or be like, yeah, that could be possible.
Last thing I have is what Gojo's reaction will be once he's unsealed. Like, and I think that that's a really good talking point, because it lends itself to the question of when he will be unsealed. Does Geto or this boss, like, are we going to try to defeat everything to then unseal Gojo, or unseal Gojo so then we can easily defeat everything? You know what I mean? I almost think it would be in character for what they've painted Gojo out to be, to at some point in the future be released so that he can fucking snap,
being
you know?
given an opening to snap. Especially if you give the character like Gojo the chance to fight this thing without feeling like constantly having to think in his brain of like all the other components.
Yeah.
All of the chaos that has been created, all of the non-sorcerers, what that kind of idea of the scales being changed in the logic of his mind of like how many lives, like how to sacrifice.
Yeah.
To kind of take away all of that other extra thought from him would be really interesting. I do also wonder if this is one of those moments narratively where you kill the strongest character or make it so the strongest character can't be the one that defeats this person, because obviously this being underestimates everyone else other than Gojo, or maybe properly estimates.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's written. I don't know what the story is going to show us. I don't know who could defeat this thing and what this thing actually is, and what's the criteria to defeating it.
Stomp it. Stomp on its brain. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.